Welcome, 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 beautiful angel souls, to this beautiful, beautiful day, month, experience. I saw something recently where someone said, I love when a new moon collides with the beginning of a month. And I couldn't agree more. There's something about it that just seems like everything's back into flow. And for those of you who are new, welcome, welcome, welcome. And those of you who keep coming back, thank you so much. Welcome back. But we've spoken about this many times, actually, in many different ways, this topic. And I think when I was in that cycle of doing the moon readings, we really had this chance, this opportunity to, when I looked down, it was 47. Also number 11, angel numbers. But we really had this great insight into the moon cycles and why they're so important. And for those of you who have been with me recently in the last year, we've been having this weird shift where the new moons were like in the middle of a month. And it would happen like in the middle of like I'm trying to explain. I'm like, I know what I want to say, but where it was like basically like the new moon lasted longer, right? Because it was like, Leo season started on the 22nd, but we didn't really have the new moon in Leo. You know what I mean? Like we've been having that with Virgo, but I feel like it's all starting to kind of come back. Does that make sense? Because it felt like it was like dragging the signs out for like 6 weeks, where in my experience, I don't remember it being like that. For all I know, it's always been that way. And I'm like, oh, I just recognize it, but I don't believe so. I sometimes I like to reference my old calendars and stuff, but I'm not feeling that right now because it doesn't really matter. It's just we are at the end of a moon cycle and the beginning of another one, and we're at the end of August, which was super profound in a gazillion different ways. And now we're moving into September, which is a 9, like we're almost there, you know what I mean? Like it's been a fucking doozy, you know what I mean? Like, girl, I don't know about you guys, but like August, like shook me to my fucking core. The whole summer was intense. I have actually recorded so much stuff, you guys. I don't know if you'll ever see it. I don't know if it was just for me. Also, this is the first for me to like wear my hair down. I used to wear my hair down all the time, but I was like called to do that today. Because I went and took a shower and like, because I live in a tiny home. I don't have a shower. I'm off grid. But it was like one of those days where it was like, and man, you know how irritating it is? A little side note, I use so much oils all the time. I'm like, I just washed my hair today and it's already starting to look kind of greasy. But at least my hair is healthy, right? It's for the most part. But I digress. So yeah, so like all these changes, it's like here we are, right now it's the beginning of September, but also and about to be the new moon in Virgo in real time, just so we can, today's September 1st, so welcome. Whenever you watch this is timeless, but for me in real time it is 9/1/2024, which 9 and 1 is 10 and 2024 is 8. And what is that? 19, right? Because it would be 9 and 1 is 10, then 8 is 18, 8 and 1 is 9. So we're almost there, and I feel like this reading is really powerful because we're going to talk about a lot of different things today. We're going to we have some messages from the Dragonfly. I have been inundated with Dragonfly spirit medicine for months, but like yesterday I had to stop taking footage to the point where I was like, dude, I got stuff to do, because he was like everywhere. Which, by the way, his name is Trevor, so I don't know if it's like, because I don't know if it was an actual like person trying to speak to one of you guys, like saying, hey, it's Trevor, or if it was their name Trevor. I felt both, so it could be both. Maybe Trevor has reincarnated into a dragonfly. How fucking rad. But it was one of those dragonflies that's like that really cool, I think it's called cornflower blue, and black, and just the biggest, most iridescent wings, and just there's been a lot of magic happening around here. In fact, today, please send some beautiful, loving, healing energy. I don't know if it was Alder or myself, but one of us killed a slug, and I don't care what other people think, but slugs are so magical. That's why they have that cool like iridescent like trail behind them, right? Like they're magic, like they're pure magic. So I was like devastated. I'm like, oh no, one of us killed him. I don't know who it was, doesn't matter, but I sent them some good energy for their next life, but please send them some, sometimes you just see something, you're like, oh no, it was just that moment. So, but they were a healthy big one, so maybe that was just their time and that's how they wanted to go, whatever. Maybe they just wanted to have this moment where we send them some nice energy and a good prayer. But, some people may find this channel and be like, that dude's weird, man, and think I'm crazy. But for those of you who like my crazy, I am so connected to Earth. I am so connected to the stars. I love being an angel on Earth. Like I've had like these moments where like I know it's like really intimidating and hard for people to hear that. It's jarring. It can be a little off-putting. I had this with someone recently who's very dear to me, and I was like, you are an angel. You are an Earth angel. I'm like, you don't have to accept that. You don't have to walk that path in this life, but just so you know, I'm like, I know, like, it's like every bone in my body. I'm like, but until you accept that, until you realize that, there's nothing I can do. And now I'm at this place too where, I have to do what I have to do, and it's not going to align with a lot of human stuff, especially if it's in the third dimensional old energy that I am. As of today, I can feel it. Like at the end of this moon cycle, I'm shutting the door. For those of you who know, I did a little shorts about it, but my mother passed away 2 weeks ago today, and I have been through so much. That's what I'm saying. Like, I've recorded videos where I'm like, whoa, I'll like crying like hysterically. I had videos talking to my family, to be like, I'm sorry, and all this stuff. And I just went through all these different things. And then Spirit just started to like show me over the last like 48 hours for sure. I was starting to understand like why this all went down this way and how I want to fix it. I want to change it. And over my lifetime, I've had people say to me, it's not yours to fix. It's not your, it's not your thing to change, right? And when it comes to karma, I was reminded last night by one of my dear friends, Kalima, that karma is very real, and karma has a job to do as well. And so it's not my job to keep continually trying to repair, fix, heal, lead, whatever. Like, all I can do is put out what I'm meant to put out and interact with those I'm meant to interact with. But there was a moment in the last few days where I just started to really understand it, like on so many levels, like who I am, what I'm meant to do, and that I have to shut the door to my past. It is a choice, right? Like it's a choice, but whatever karma I have with my mother or my siblings or any extended family beyond that, now all of my parents are deceased, and as each one goes, they give me wisdom and they give me strength, power, gifts. It's all encompassing. It just depends on the spirit and who it is. But I've just had so many moments and so many things that have been happening that, it's like Snow White ain't got nothing on me. You know what I mean? Where I'm just like, what the fuck? Where I feel so eternally blessed to say that, and this isn't ego, that's what I'm saying, where it's just like, holy shit, where you can just have so many signs and you're just like, yeah, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. The elephant has been like coming to me, all of these, the owl. I have owls around me, and then over, like, we've been here, 5 or 6 months now? I don't know, somewhere around there. And when we first got here, I did hear owls, but there were starlings, and there's just been robins, and then all of a sudden it's like I started to notice they all started to disappear. Like, I'd see them for long periods of time, but just like a shitload of fucking like bird spirit medicine, like so much that you can't like not. I mean, some people would argue, oh, that's just you live in this place and it's nature. I'm like, yes, I understand that, but I feel so protected. I feel so like glowed up. Do you know what I mean? And over the last, like, I'd say about month or so, I started to notice, like, I was like, oh, now the robins are gone. Like, what is happening? I'm like, is this just normal? And then I saw a hawk, a red-tailed hawk. And I was like, oh, and and I've seen ravens. I mean, they're all around here. The one thing we don't have a lot of is crows, which is interesting, but we have a shitload of ravens, owls, eagles. I mean, I literally, there's so many, I can go on and on. But the other day, I said to Alder, I said, yeah, I said, we've had a lot of red-tailed hawks, or a lot of hawks around here. And I even saw a falcon. Like, that's what I'm saying, like, where it's been like, what the fuck? And I know where I live is really magical, like, I get that, like, but it's just like, we're just like, come on, like, where are the cameras? I am totally on some, like, weird version of Hunger Games, but it's like the healing of Hunger Games or something. I don't know. That's interesting. That's interesting. Maybe that'll be our title, The Healing of Hunger Games. Ah, shit. That would be such a fucking cool title. Because as of right now, I have like Over the Rainbow, What If, Self-Care September, like a lot of stuff for us to talk about in the new moon in Virgo. But anyway, so I saw Alder was here and my partner, and oh my gosh, he looks up and he's like, look at the red-tailed hawk. And I go, dude, that's the hawk that's having the family over there. And then it's like, those moments where it's like everything hits you and you're like, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, I just realized how fucking blessed I really am. And like, because when I was working with my last shaman, like when she was like, you're on your own, like now you need to go like make your own way, But red-tailed hawks kept coming around when we were together, and she said that was one of her spirit animals and blah blah blah, one of her totems, and she said, I believe it's yours as well. And it is. And every time like Alder and I used to come up to the peninsula before we moved up here, we would see red-tailed hawks, we would see otters, but yes, but that's the point. Oh, okay. For some of you, I meant to tell you to work with otter spirit medicine. So if that resonates with you, go work with it. If it doesn't, all I'll tell you is they represent divine feminine energy. So I'll leave it at that. So maybe you need to work with that, or maybe you're dealing with somebody who's like super high in their masculine right now and really needs to flow back into the feminine, whatever feels good. But with that being said, I've just always had this kinship for the red-tailed, hawk. But when it really hit me that they were nesting in the tree above me, I was like, holy shit, that's pretty fucking, like, to me, that was like, you are done. You know what I mean? Like, you are full on, like, you are in teacher mode. Like, I will always be constantly learning as well. But, sometimes we have to lead by example. And the way things are closing with my third dimensional family and that energy, my blood and bone, it's very interesting how that door is closing. I will never close a door to someone who is seeking love and a true relationship with me. Just so you know that. I'll never close the door. However, if we're not in alignment energetically, I may not respond at this time. And if and when in this lifetime we are meant to connect again in person, we will. But if we don't, we don't. And this goes for everybody. This goes for my blood and bone. This goes for my witchy family. This goes for my star family and my, you know what I mean? Because we're all in different levels of consciousness right now, and there's so much happening, and we're seeing all the fakery and the fuckery and all that, and it's interesting. It's really interesting to me, if I'm being very brutally honest. It's very interesting to me that I feel like right now there's something really powerful unfolding with the American election, and I see some things, but you know what the interesting thing is I see a lot of different things, because the thing that we have to remember is that we all have free will. So between now and the election, all I ask is that you stay in as high a vibration as possible, because we're trying to let the love come in wherever it comes in, because some wolves come in through sheep's clothing, in all different forms. So I think it's just important right now to like keep your, like go with your intuition, like go with your, whatever, but also just keep in mind that, all people have hidden agendas. And I'm not speaking for one or the other or anything. I really believe that this is I believe that right now discernment has never been more potent or more important than now. And if you don't know what discernment is, please look it up. Discernment is very powerful, you know, and there's discernment, there's intuition, there's all these different like guide systems that we have. Morality, you know, like what we believe in, like what does our soul tell us, what is our, you know, because at the end of the day, you want somebody who is going to take a bullet for you. And I know that sounds crazy, right? But I take a bullet for anybody because I'm not afraid to die. I was brought here for a reason. And I hope and pray that I continue to, you know, do what I'm like, I don't think that they would bring me this far, only bring me this far, but they might. I don't know. But the one thing I do know is that we have to love each other so fiercely, because every single one of us is just another version of us. That's it. So I am you, you are me. When people make fun of this or make fun of us, you know, it's because they're so out of touch with reality, their reality. Do you know what I mean? Because when you're force-fed something, and it's a lot easier just to be like, hey, I'm just gonna, you know, my phone's over there, but, you know, pick up my phone, and, you know, it's so easy to distract ourselves. Look at the monkey, instead of like looking at the inside. What's in our minds, our bodies, our souls. Also, before I forget, I called in all the energetic healing, whatever modalities, you know, I always kind of say I call upon the healing energies of the universe. I worked with Reiki first for myself, and then I called on the healing energies, and all you have to say is, I accept this healing. And with, you know, with grace and gratitude, I accept this healing. That's all you have to say, and it will come in and work on you. And if you don't want it right away, then say the little prayer when you're about to fall asleep. That's the best way. I love at night to have that little time to just be like, you know, oh, I should say I do, but sometimes I get lazy. And I was thinking about this because I had a thing with my phone last night. I'm chuckling with spirit about something that happened last night. It doesn't matter, but it was funny. You know, because sometimes I need the little, you know, go to bed. Like, you don't need to do this. You don't need to watch anything else. You don't need to do anything else. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. Just, as my friend used to say, you know, just like, be quiet and get still. Because it's in the stillness that we really find ourselves. It's in the stillness that we really understand who and what we are, and not what we've become over conditioning and programming from every single person who we've ever been in contact with since our eyes opened. Right? Since we were born. It's very serious. It's very real. You know, so when you're thinking about someone who's going to be in office, it's like you have to think, you know, they've been having me talk about the election a lot, which is very interesting to me, but I believe it's because it's so important right now that we see through the bullshit, and that we see, you know, because think about this. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to keep lies up. It takes a lot of paying this person, that person. You know, the proof is in the pudding. You know, we're all human. We all make mistakes. We all fuck up. It's part of the human condition. But when things keep happening and somebody's not learning their lessons, and instead they're being revered or applauded for it, I don't believe that is somebody I would like to, that's not somebody I would like to speak for me. I was born and raised in this country too. I go back several generations in this country. So, you know, and on both sides, I have indigenous in me, you know, I have the Native American blood in me, but I mean, it's not even really Native American, right? Because it was just a peninsula, or it's just a, you know, continent. You might divide the Canada, you know, and Mexico. It's like, but it's one fucking continent. It's a very interesting world, and things are going to change. And I pray in this lifetime that we come together as one nation under the universe, under spirit, under the one whatever, wherever we come from, you know. As of now, I don't know anybody on this planet that knows for certain 100% where we come from, why we can, you know. If you've never seen the movie Contact with Jodie Foster, please, please, please watch it. It's so profound. It's so amazing. And the ending is so beautiful, and I don't want to give too much away, but I love the ending because it leaves that kind of same thing, like, who knows, who knows, but but if not, it's an awful waste of space, right? He says that in the movie. Her dad. I love the actor who plays her dad. um so I just want you to start thinking about, as we're closing the chapter, we say goodbye to the first 8 months of the, Gregorian calendar year. We have 4 months left, about 5 months until we pass the baton from the dragon spirit to the snake, where we will be really shedding that skin. But, it's time for you to make your stand with people, or give your goodbyes, or say, the one thing I've always said to you guys is I'm never going to ask you to do anything I haven't done myself. That's why I was born the way I was, into the family that I was, the life that I was, all of the experiences, every single experience. That's why I had to be the youngest of my siblings and be the only, because I think my cousin under me, I believe he's about 5 or 6 years younger than me. So if that's the case, then, I had all those years where I was the baby. And if you ever saw that show from the 80s with the dinosaurs, it was a sitcom with dinosaurs. I don't remember the name of it. If you know, please comment below. When he was like, I'm the baby. That's kind of how it was, because I was the baby and everybody loved me, but it made other people crazy and it made them hate me. Because my aunt above me was like that and she was the baby. There's a lot of resentment and weird shit that happens, and competition and all this, and I just started to really pick it all apart, and I was like, man, I love them all so much, but I cannot be around them, because when you're a mirror, you're gonna either make people feel really great, or they're gonna see their darkness and their demons, and it's just gonna make it, I literally have had friends and family that would say to me, I don't know what it is about you, because I love everybody and whatever, but I get around you, you just like rub me wrong. And I'm like, because there must be something about them that they're seeking inside of me. I have all of these years that I have trained and traveled and worked with all of these different teachers, shamans, whatever name title you want to give it, with all of these influences on me, all of these, elders and ancestors, but even some that were much younger than me, but they were elders, right? In all of my experience, I have had time to really unpack my own stuff. The more time I spend away from people that I was raised with, the more I started to realize who and what I really was. So my mother's death was so significant for me because we were so close. I mean, really, really close. And I lived with her and my stepfather in my adult years. When I wanted to go back to college, I was struggling, and my mom was like, stay with us until you can figure some stuff out. And so before I went back to college, actually, it was living with them that really pushed me to go. But I had this really cool experience where I got to live with my mom and my stepfather, who I had known most of my life because I had known him since my childhood. But to witness them like my parents and to watch them fight, and it was just like my parents. It was so surreal. It was so surreal. But at the same time, it was different because they're different people. So I think a lot of people looked at that relationship and thought it was maybe this way or that way, but it was the beginning for me. It was almost like moving back home was like I got a complete do-over. I didn't realize it then, and honestly, even in this moment, I'm having a lot of epiphanies with it, because as we're at the end of this moon cycle, thank you Leo energy, as we are at the end of this fire and we're going into the earth energy, because we're in Virgo now. We've said goodbye to Leo season, but we're in Virgo season. Now we're going to be in Virgo moon energy. And as we go into that, it's going to feel so good, because throat chakra, It's a release of the old, right? Like speaking your truth and saying, drink some water, and saying, I don't live there anymore. That person doesn't exist. You may have to do what I did and change your name. Most of you know I've been going by Tallulah Kelly for almost a decade. I changed my name. I never changed it legally because I wasn't sure if I was going to keep it. And now it's really interesting because I've been thinking about it a lot. And I've always held tight to Kelly because she's a warrior. And Kelly means warrior in Gaelic. And Kelly Ann was my birth name. And then to keep her a part of me, I kept her as my surname. So I changed my name to Tallulah Kelly. Then I really liked Lula. I liked that. And then I had some friends who started calling me Lou. A few people call me Lulu. Some people still call me Lou and Lulu. It's funny. And I'm like, that's fine. But it's interesting because I always drew L's when I was a kid, even though K, and I love drawing K's, but I would draw L's. I loved L's. Loved it. I used to think, oh, maybe it's from Laverne and Shirley because Laverne was my favorite and she wore L's on her shirt and my L looks almost exactly like hers. So crazy. But I always knew. So recently, I had this moment where I love Kelly, but I need to put her to rest as well. I don't want to carry her around with me anymore. I am a warrior. I don't need to have a name to prove that. So it's very interesting, and I'm realizing like that whole world is being left behind me. And when my mother passed, there was just this, I started to feel her fading away a few days before. I knew it was coming. I received so many signs, and it was just unbelievable. So when I finally had the moment where I was like, okay, I'm not going to go back, because I was like, you know what, I'm going to go back for her service, I'm going to, go get my stuff so that my family doesn't have to be responsible for it. I'm like, I'm going to take care of it. Well, even in the last video I did, and I don't know if it'll see the light of day again. I'm like, I don't know. I've made a lot of things. I don't know when they're going to go out, but I'll tell you, you'll know. But I even said in that video, I'm like, I don't know if I'm supposed to do this. I don't know if I'm supposed to do that. La, la, la. But then it hit me today, and I realized, I'm like, no, that's for them. I have some really cool magical stuff at my mom's in boxes. And when I moved to the Pacific Northwest, I really didn't want to hold on to anything, but I really was at that point where I was so uncertain. I wasn't sure who I was or what was going on, and I think my mom was concerned for me with that, and that I believe because she was so concerned about me, I allowed that to come in. And so I allowed her to talk me into keeping all of my stuff there because she's like, we have the room in their retirement home. She's like, we have the room. Like, we have plenty of room. So just bring your stuff down. And so the last time I went to visit, I went through a bunch of my boxes. I gave stuff away. And then again, I wanted to get rid of stuff. My mom was like, no, leave it here. So what I realized today was it was meant to be there for my nieces and nephews or my family, anybody who wants anything in those boxes. Like, it's for them. That was like me leaving that to them. And if not, there's a place in town. It's called the Purple Door or the Red Door or something. And I feel like my mom would have told them that, or I feel like I feel like whatever my family wouldn't want, my mom would donate to that. So but it was called the Purple Door or something like that, and it was for it's a battered women's shelter, and they have a thrift store that helps fund the battered women's shelter, and that is exactly where I'd wanted to go. So I hope, and I've been sending good energy that my mom told them, or that they'll know, or that or if I'm meant to, maybe I'll send an email to my niece or something and be like, hey, because there's so much cool shit there that I would want them to have, like I'd want them, it's like an inheritance, right? Like I'd want them to have that, whoever wants it. And if they don't want it, then throw it on the stuff with the rest of my mom's stuff that nobody wants and donate it. Either way, I just want it to be donated. I just hope they don't throw it away. And if they do, then it's going where it's supposed to go. You know what I mean? It's like, it is what it is. But I realized, like, I cannot go home because Kelly Ann Wazalowski is gone. She's no longer. She served me well. She's awesome. I love her, but she's gone. Now I'm Tallulah. And I don't know if I'll have a last name or what will happen. But I like that. And it's always worked for me. And in Native American, it means leaping water. And in Celtic, it means fruitful woman. And if I have some inheritance, I'm like, I want them to have it. You know, like I'll make my, I'm ready. Now I'm ready. I always knew I was going to be extremely wealthy. I always knew I was going to be famous in some way. I didn't know how or when or why or where. And over the years, when I would go on auditions, and it would be like between me and another person, or you guys have heard me, been with me forever, you know my stories, and when you get so close. I mean, I was telling Alder this story yesterday about Sammy Hagar, and he's like, "You never told me that." I'm like, "Yes, I did." I'm like, "Remember?" I'm like, "That's the time I smoked a joint with Billy Idol," and he was like, "Oh," he's like, "How did I not know that those were the same story?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, but I'm like, "But because that's what my life was like. That was fucking normal. That was normal for me. Whether I was with my ex-husband, who was a musician, and met famous people through him, or through my job, waiting tables, bartending, or at that particular situation, it was my friend whose best friend was married to Sammy Hagar. You know what I mean? And it's like, and we went to a show, and I was in the green room, and he's like, "Oh, put your hands in my hair. I'm about to cut my hair off." And I grew up in the 70s and the 80s. I fucking knew who he was, and his hair was his signature. So he was cutting it on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno for Locks of Love. And he literally forced me to put my hand in his hair. He would remember, you know what I mean? Like Lori Ann, was my friend, and I literally smoked a joint with Billy Idol in the green room when everybody left, because they took the kids and they went to go watch the show, and we had this really awesome exchange, and it was like we were long lost friends. It was cool. And I've always been that. I've always attracted people who were hurting. Billy was hurting. He was having problems with his son at the time. And, it was just like this great thing. And he was like, "Wow, thank you so much for talking to me." And, and I was like, no worries, Billy Idol. You know what I mean? But it was like, I can't tell you how many actors and actresses and musicians and whatever, and like that I would wait on. The band Korn, I never even knew them, didn't know their music, anything. But like there was one guy there, and he had like lost a family member or something. And I remember having a conversation with him. I couldn't tell you which one it was or whatever, why that even came to mind after the hundreds of them that I met. But I worked at Planet Hollywood in Beverly Hills for almost 2 years, so do the math. I waited tables and bartended in Beverly Hills, or in LA, for years, and worked in politics there too. So they just lived there. I remember when I was telling Billy while we were smoking the joint, I was like, "Dude, I'm like, you're one of the first celebrities I saw here." He's like, "Really?" I go, "Yeah." I go, "It was 1995, and I said I lived up the road, and I went to this gas station by my house, and you literally pulled up next to me in your motorcycle and fucking got gas." He's like, "Oh, all right." He's like, "Cool." I was like, but look at that full circle moment. I met Pamela Anderson at her garage sale, like in her apartment, in whatever, and that's the whole thing. And then like years later, like we kept running into each other, and then met her at this church years later, and she's like, "Oh, hey," and they're just people. They're your community. And so I started to realize, like, I have been put here for so many reasons. But last night I was pulled to watch this reading that was so profound. It just, everything clicked. And then I met this beautiful creature today. Hi, Kristen. and I was like, "So basically what you're telling me is you're a bullshit barometer?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I feel you." I'm like, "You're not alone." There's so many people waking up right now, like really waking up and being like, "Well, I've always been this," or "I've always felt this way," or I was drawn to go to this laundromat recently. I said it, and I don't know if I'll show that reading, but I said it was like the island of misfit toys, and it's just so interesting of how many people I talk to, and so many profound, beautiful souls, lost angels, so many people who are home free and transient. They're fucking Jesus, man. People don't want to see that, but that's what's happening. So the world is changing, and it's flipping, and that's why they're drawn to me. I used to think, like, my family, I used to run a rescue. It was kind of a rescue. It was my version of a rescue out of my house. I basically fostered animals, but almost every animal that came to me was at death's door. And so my sister nicknamed me the Grim Reaper, and I was like, "That's so mean." She's like, "Well, seriously." She's like, I digress. But what I realized is but they weren't. They still had some life in them. They needed some love at the end of their lives. I had a homeless cat that I had heard about through somebody, and I drove hours to go and get this cat and be with him at the end of his life because he was so special. he was so cool and everybody knew him, but he was too sick to take care of himself. And this one guy was like, I don't feel like we're supposed to put him down yet. He's still kind of healthy. I watched him shrivel up, you know, until he got to the point where he was so sick, and I just brought him back, and I was like, he was disturbing my whole household. He's never really been, we did our best with him, you know, but it was time for him, you know, to go. So I brought him back, and then they put him down. But he got to have a life, and he got to live in a house, and, you know, it was cool. And because according to the one lady, she's like, I don't think he's ever been inside a house, but he was too cool to go. And I forget, oh, they called him Petey, like Pete, but with a Y. And I was like, Petey, it reminded me of like, I don't know. And I was like, no, but he only had one fang left, and his thing always went up here. So we called him Elvis. We called him E, because he was so cool. And he was like, thank you very much, you know. But we got to have that time with that cool character, and he was an angel. You know, I mean, angels come in all shapes and sizes and forms. So don't discount people. But also Spirit saying, for some of you, you are allowing people to stay in your orbit because you think that they are this person, or you think that they are blah, blah, blah. And Spirit's like, they're not, though. They're not. And they may never change in this lifetime. So you can either keep going along with them on that path, or you can say, you know what, enough's enough. I want to live. I want to live my life. You know, I want to roam like a gypsy and go see the world. The world is changing, you guys. And, you know, sometimes I think I am meant to go back into politics, but I think the only way I would ever get into politics is if it went universal. Because I think that the planet would do so much better if it was run by, like, you know, like the Galactic Council, you know, where it's a council of human beings. You know, I know that we have that now, but NATO kind of ruined that. And, you know, there's a lot of, let's put it this way, every single side of politics is shady, and every single side of politics is light. It's up to you to decipher what is what. And sometimes it's all encompassing, it's all at once. And that's where it can be really scary and feel disillusionment, which that leads us into the Dragonfly. So, you know, I want you all to start really wrapping things up with your old life and getting very serious about your new one. Those of you who've been with me, you know I have struggled. I have suffered. It has not been easy. It has not been easy. And I've done a lot of this alone. You know, today I had a magical moment. I wasn't sure if this was going to come in, and I said, if it's meant to come in, it will. But I had this really magical moment. Because Alder and I we're in talks, you know, we're good, you know, but we still have a lot of things that we have to work through individually, but we're back on track to where we're at least like doing our best to work on our marriage, because we both feel like it's really, we didn't get married under God like in a church. Alder and I went and had a betrothal out in nature, in one of our most favorite spots that feels sacred. It was a spot that he felt really connected to Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yeti, whatever you want to call it, the you know, those magical creatures. He's very connected to them, and that particular place and that river, we both could feel them. And then that river also, every time we go there, I feel my father. And I have been all over the Pacific Northwest and have been on more rivers than I probably could name. And that one was the one that felt so sacred to me, and it reminded me of my father. And so we decided, and we camped there. Like, we've had a lot of, it was just like, it's like a special place for us. So we went and had a betrothal there. And when we decided to separate this summer and have time apart, we found that, or I felt like things were good, but he was finding that he was like, I'm just not good. I'm not good. But then we realized that, like, at the beginning of the summer, I was like that when I found out my mom was sick, and I wanted to go see her so bad, and I was like crying like almost every day, and Spirit was like, no, and the ancestors were like, stay strong, and I was like, no. I'm like, what's wrong with just calling her and saying goodbye, you know? And they were like, you said goodbye. Just because she didn't want to say goodbye doesn't mean, you know, like, my mom and I had our ending together. We had our time, like, you know, like I said, whether or not she wanted to, you know, but it was heartbreaking, because I'm like, I mean, there were days where I'm like, I'm not a fucking monster, you know? And even after she died, I'm like, I'm not a monster. Like, I want to reach out to my family. And they were just like, they're not your family. They've proven to you and showed you time and time again that they are not your family. They don't want you there. Don't go somewhere where you're not wanted. And that's what I'm going to say to you. If you are uncomfortable with friends, family, work, anything, where you have to be somebody else than who you are, you're not in the right place. And you will keep going through these patterns. You'll learn a lot, but I'm telling you, you're going to keep going until you don't want to be there anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're going to keep going until you're like, I can't do this another day. I promise you. You will get tired of it. Or you will keep living in this pattern until you die. And then your next incarnation, you know, you'll figure it out. But that's what I started to realize was I was like, you know, I don't ever want to come back. Like, there were times where I screamed at spirit and I'm like, I'm never fucking coming back here ever. Don't ever ask me. Don't ever, you know, I was like, I'm not playing. Like, these people are like, it's getting worse. I've lived here over 50 years now. I'm like, you know, but then when I started to see everything taking a turn, when I started to see this past year, how the tides were turning, I was like, no, things are good. We just have to hang in there just a little bit longer, but things are good, things are good, things are good, things are good. And we're going to get out of the disillusionment, and everybody's going to, it's going to be to the point where, like I said to Alder the other day, I go, I wouldn't be surprised, I said, if we wake up to some, like, you know, Born on, or 4th of July, what is that movie? You know, with Will Smith and the aliens, where they wake up one day and they're like all over the planet. I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if it's something like that, but I feel like it's going to be the reverse, though. They've wanted us to be afraid of them because there's more of the good guys than the bad guys, right? Because the whole universe was born out of love, and the shadow was created to teach us lessons and to stretch our soul as one. We're one soul, right? Like, we're like one being. And so, you know, we're just, you and me, we're all like little teeny molecules, you know, of like one big organism that, who knows, you know, Horton Hears a who knows, who knows. I think that's the beauty of it. I think that's the love of it. So the more mean people were being to me, the more I was just like, I'm just going to send you love. I don't have the time and energy anymore. I just don't. And it's not because I don't love people, but I just can't keep pretending like things are okay. I'm not going to pretend like it's okay for me to be in this environment. It's okay for me. I'm like, no, I won't go to that environment. I won't do that. And why thought I was drawn here, you know, because of my witchiness and all that, because it's super witchy here. But I realized, I'm like, no, I know exactly why I was brought here. Because, you know, it's like 16 Candles, where he goes, something like, or no, Molly Ringwald says to Anthony Michael Hall's character, she's like, well, you're kind of cool. I mean, you're like the leader of your people, right? And he's like, yeah. He's like, well, we're a bunch of dipshits. And she goes, yeah, but you're like the king of the dipshits. That's still pretty cool, right? She was so cute. And it's true. It's like, that's how I feel. I'm like, you know what? I will very, very humbly and with grace and gratitude, absolutely with honor and grace, accept the part of being the head of the island of misfit toys, right? Because we're all here, and we're very awake, and we're very aware that we're different, and that we have something to do and something to say here. And there may not be the, you know, there's only so many what they call chosen ones or whatever, but there's also a shitload of light workers here. So basically, if you looked at the planet, you know, you'd have angels, light workers, demons, you know, shadow worker, whatever. Like, I'm just giving a very simple explanation of something that's so complex that it would take me forever to even try and explain, and even if I even could wrap my mind around it and say that that's real. Do you know what I mean? Because it's my awareness, it's my level of consciousness, so I can only speak to you from my own. But it's almost as if, like, that's what it is. It's like we've got like this here and here and here and here, but it's like we need those four corners to keep us stable and keep us grounded. We need all of the energies, because they're all here for a reason. We all have a purpose. And you can't say, oh, this person's purpose is greater than this person's purpose. And you know what I mean? Yes, yes, in some ways, yes, but in some ways, no. But when you look at the percentage of like what's here, there is seriously so much more people who are woke, right? Because especially the 5D, 1969 is when the age of Aquarius came in. So we will never go back to that. We'll never go back to that Piscean age. Like, not until we go around, but we'll never go back to that. All those years of slavery and suffering and strife and trafficking and sex and torture and mutilating, you know, animals and children and whatever, all in the name of God. I can tell you without any doubt in my bones that the God that I believe in doesn't demand a sacrifice. Not a killing one anyway. The only thing they want us to do is kill the part of us that is trying to, the parasitic part of us that's trying to continue moving forward, when they're like, that doesn't belong to you. That's not yours. So we are not the sum of all of our deeds. And the ancestors' blood and bone runs through our veins and in our bodies. But they didn't go through all that sacrifice for us to do the same. That, oh, if it's good for my great-grandpappy and good for my grandpa and good for my pappy, it's good for me. No. He was miserable, he was miserable, he was miserable, and you're miserable. What? No. They're in the, you know, the outer realms going, no, don't, no, you love to play piano. Why are you working as a construction worker? You know, like, they're like, what are you doing? Like, I did that for years so that you didn't have to do that. But it's going to be different for everybody. Some people, 4 generations of piano players, and they all loved it, and that's their purpose. It's just different for everybody. But most light workers and angels that are here, we had to go through really dark, twisted, fucked up shit for us to be able to really understand, right? Like, I have empathy and sympathy, you know, for people who are struggling, because I know what it's like to be home free now. I know what it's like to live off the grid for 2 years. I know what it's like to not take showers for months, and all I can do is wash my hands or wash under, like, you know, a sink. I know what it feels like to go and get water and heat it up because I don't have water. I know what it's like to not have electricity. That was also my karma, because I did a lot of really fucked up shit, and I used my magic and manipulation to get things that I wanted that didn't belong to me. So there's going to be a lot of things that are going to change, and are, you know, and it's getting us, you know, it's not this, you know, communistic kind of like thing where they're like, oh, it's like, no, we are one, meaning like, no, you're not allowed to be a corporation and come in and destroy an entire fucking town, an entire village, because you want to bring in, you know, your Walmart and your True Value and your, you know, whatever, instead of like local Hank's hardware store. That family relied on that. You know, especially now that I grew up in cities. I lived in Los Angeles and Chicago. I was born on the south side of Chicago, in the south suburbs, and lived and worked in Chicago. And Los Angeles, I was there and visited off and on for, gosh, almost 20 years, you know, and seen so many others. But I'm just saying, but I lived in those places. And now over the years, I lived in these small towns, these small villages, these small communities, and just remembering like what that's like. Because in the city life, you get really wrapped up in the anonymity of it. And that, you know, I remember somebody had said something like, well, don't you know your neighbors? And I was like, no, not really. And I was watching a movie, and they're like, you've lived here for 5 years and you don't know your neighbors? And they're like, well, I mean, I know what they look like, but I mean, I don't, you know, we don't talk to each other. And they're like, you don't think that's weird? And they're like, no. Now, some people don't, and that's cool, you know, but it's also kind of like, when did we break away from helping each other and taking care of each other, or that people would rather starve or, you know, freeze to death, or they can't breathe because it's 117 degrees and it's so hot that they can't breathe. You know, it's like, when did we stop caring for each other? When did we stop taking care of each other? moving forward in this Lionsgate portal, the month of August, all these 888 portals that we had, there were so many. We had so many. We were so blessed. The 17th, the 26th of August, along with the 8th, you know, those were really magical, special days. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I did videos for you guys, so I don't know if they'll see the light of day, but I also like was talking about my family stuff, so I don't know. And I don't have fancy software, so I don't know how to like edit it, like to take it out. So maybe one day they will. Out of nowhere, my eye just started bothering me. So I feel like maybe somebody's having like an eye twitch or something's going on with your eye. And I'm hearing that it's not, you don't need to go to the doctor. It's stress. When your eye twitches, it's stress. So there's going to be a lot of things that are going to come forward. You know, of course they're going to, you know, say, oh, we want to do this. Oh, we want to do that. But look at the track record. Somebody can say something, but look at their actual track record. And look at the whole track record. You know? There are really interesting things that are afoot right now. I feel like there's a conspiracy even like with the candidates. Like I feel like there's some weird shit going on that like I feel like it will reveal itself. But I don't even want to know because I'm just like, because every time stuff like that comes up, I'm like, Spirit, I know you got it. We're good. You know, I'll experience it. I'm going to be here. You know what I mean? By the grace of you, I will be here, right? So, you know, just stay in a high vibration. Stay in, you know, the good news is Virgo is an earth energy. So it's very grounding. And that's why I love this new moon in Virgo because in my opinion, in my experience, I'm a triple fire and my moon's in water. I don't have a lot of earth signs, but I have found in my experience that actually that most of the time that I've done new moon rituals on an earth sign, Capricorn, Taurus, or Virgo, is usually when I have the most powerful things happen. So leading back around to Alder, they wanted me to tell you all that to get back to this. It was in the new moon in Taurus that I wished for and set out an intention for my partner. And we have been having some really magical times together the last few days. It's been really beautiful. And today I was looking for something and I went through one of my old journals that says hope on the side and hope on the front, but like I saw it like up with my books and it was upside down, which was really interesting. I went to flip it up because I'm like, how did that get like that? Why wouldn't I have hope going that way? Like I kind of have a system. And when I went to flip the book, they said, no, like there's something in there. So I thought there was going to be something in there for me to share with you guys. And so I go to open it up and there's all this journal stuff and poems and songs and all my stuff. But what was really cool was when I went to move it, I saw this piece of paper sticking out, and when I pulled the piece of paper out, it was the manifestation of Alder. On the new moon in Taurus, on an earth sign, I put wishing for. I don't remember, I put it away because I want to share it with him. I can't wait to share it with him. But the funny thing is, I had found it some years ago, and I remember I was in a dark place with him. And I was like, well, clearly he's not the one for me. I'm like, because he's not even half this shit on here. Like this kind of like old energy, like from my family, you know, this kind of like, ugh, well, just throw the baby out with the bathwater because it must be over. You know what I mean? Looked at it again today. There's so many things on there I don't even know. 20 plus. At least 20. And he has become all of those things. And the few things on there that he hasn't fully, you know, aligned with yet, he's working on it right now. So when I met him, we both believed that we're, you know, like, oh, look at us, like we're so much further than other people, you know, like look at us, so much ego. It was just literally like just smelling off of us, just lots of ego. But the funny thing is, we really were at that time of our people in our groups, in our whatever. But it took a lot of years of change and growth. And so for some of you, when I say these things to you, like your family member, your partner, you know, your job, your boss, whatever, if you are here right now, you're more in alignment with me. They have many years to change those things. You're not meant to change them. They need to change themselves. I'm not saying you won't come back around. I don't know. I'm not going to say, there's a lot of you. But I will say this. I was very sad when Alder told me a few days ago that he genuinely wanted to be separated for good. I went through one of the worst days of my life, and someday I will tell you guys about it, but it was pretty horrible. But at the end of it, there was a lot of resolve. And then when we had time apart and we can really think about things, we started to understand no, we're just in different places right now. And we needed a lot of things to happen and fall in line the way they did for us to be no, this is us. This is us. This is us. Not the bullshit, not the, whatever. Because those people are bringing us down. If we stay in those energy fields and with those people, they're bringing us down, especially if they have a false illusion, not just of you, but of themselves. Clearly, they have a false illusion of themselves if they're continuing with their certain behavior. And if you're allowing it, oh my gosh, when I looked up, you guys, I heard what? And I looked up, it was 55. Changes all the way across the board. Yeah, nothing ever changes if nothing ever changes. Spirit saying, at least give yourself, go watch that movie Under the Tuscan Sun. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, if this is anybody who's dealing with a family, friend, whatever. In this instance, it's with a divorce. And the movie is so beautiful. And she's an American who, it was a book first, I believe. And it's an American, and she moves to Italy. And she has this complete life-changing experience. It's kind of like Eat, Pray, Love, if you've ever seen that movie with Julia Roberts, which is another good one to see. But those are just an example of it's time to venture out and do things on your own. Before Alder and I got together, I was single for 7 years. I had lovers, but I had, boyfriends here and there, but nothing my marriages or my long-term partnerships. Nothing. So this is the time, and to use the discernment to say, here, and this is another thing, and this is going to hurt, but I had to just rip off the fucking Band-Aid. If you think you're some Florence Nightingale and you're oh no, I know I'm meant to be here, I know I'm meant to be here. No, that's the flogging, the old school Christian, oh, I need to be in pain and suffering to help this person. I know that, and it's no, that's an old version of you that's hanging on to the old version of you. And I was brought here to go through things first so that I can say these things to you guys. So I can say I went through that. Because I was perfectly happy to walk away from Alder. But I'm telling you something. When I met Alder, he was drinking Folgers coffee kind of thing. He laughs and he's like, that's not true. And I go, no, but I'm just saying but I try to give people the example. But he was eating Dinty Moore stew out of a can and living out of, in his life, he'd go surfing, he, whatever, loved living out of his truck. He would go and work on cars when he needed money. He loved his life and it was great. But he called me in. We met each other because he was is there anyone else out there like me, that's tired of this bullshit, that wants to really change, that wants to, he put a tree of life. I normally don't even look at when I was, going through personals or, online dating or whatever. If they didn't have a picture, I didn't even give them the time of day. Because I was just you know what, don't be fake. Just, there's nothing wrong with having a picture. For me, it wasn't even about the looks because I don't have a really type. Although I realize over my life, the guys that I've been dating, it's they're all Alder's all of them in one. It's really bizarre, cool, bizarre. But there is definitely, you may have a type, but maybe it's because you're looking for because deep down that your person may look like that, or they may, and it's not about being superficial. So long story short, he had a tree of life, and I was drawn to that because I had been studying that, and I was oh, that's interesting. I wonder if they know what that is. And then when I read their thing, they clearly did. And Alder and I didn't even see each other's pictures we were messaging each other for a few days before we actually sent each other photos. And then we met in person. So it was just really interesting. And one of the things that I put in there that I wanted in a partner was somebody who would get along good with my friends. Funny, my friends at the time, there were quite a few of them that did not like him. They're like, I don't like him. There's something about him. I don't know what it is. And they're like, he's creepier, he's sneaky. And those things that they said about him were true, and he was working through that. But I found it funny that I don't talk to any of them anymore. But my people that I still talk to, he's friends with. And when some of my friends are like, you're choosing him over us, I was like, yes. I'm like, I don't know how to explain it. I'm like, but I know he's my person. But it took us 9.5 years, and we're still working on it, you know? We're still working on it. Oh, I just flipped to an hour. So, you know, it does take time. And I would say if you were with this person for this amount, and I'm not saying that we have the same story, right? I'm not saying we have the same story. I'm just saying, you know, you've given them as much time, whether it's a year or 20 years, you've given them as much time up until now. And if they're not willing to change, you know, those parts of themselves that are not aligning with where you are and where you're going, then you know your answer. So with this new moon in Taurus, it's a very important time to set those intentions, to be very genuine with yourself and say, what do I want? Where do I want to be? Write it down. Send it out to the stars. Because I did, and I'll tell you what, it's taken almost a decade of both of us working on ourselves individually and together. We both came from such horrific and broken homes. Broken love. He and I were never taught love unconditionally, you know? Yeah, they loved us because they were our family, that kind of thing, but you know, I literally said to one of my family members when the last time I was home, I'm like, I feel like I say I love you and you never say it back. And they're like, because I don't love you. And like it was like such a dead fucking arrow through my heart, but at the same time I was like, okay. So it was almost like Spirit was like, there you go. And I'm like, she's just angry, she's just hurt, you know. And they're like, and my mom told me for years, if someone shows you or tells you who they are, believe them. So I knew who and what Alder was, and that's why I kept trying to walk away. But then what I started to realize is he's broken, just like I am. But that doesn't mean I turn my back on him. And so the other day when we had this moment where we were like really like splitting up, I was like, I felt this sickness in me that I can't. I mean, even with the death of my mother, I mean, which nothing can compare to that. I'm still working through that, and I was gutted for days. It was just this moment where I was like, this feels wrong. And like, this feels wrong. And I'm like, I disagree with you, but I'm like, I can't tell you what to do. And I'm like, I wish you well. But I'm like, we can't talk anymore. We can't, I'm like, you can't have it both ways kind of thing. And once we like really took some time apart and we started to talk about it, it's like, I just said to him, I'm like, are you not in love with me? Because if there's no love anymore, you know, that's why my first marriage ended. We loved each other, but we weren't in love with each other. And I don't know if we ever were in love with each other. We loved each other deeply. We had a very beautiful, strong connection and a bond, but it wasn't it wasn't what I have with Alder. You know, it's not what he has with his wife now, as far as I, you know of them. You know, I don't know them anymore, but, you know, and even for him to say to me when I thought that this one guy, you know, was my one, and he's like, it's not him. He's like, I know you. He's like, it's not him. And it's interesting because I had this moment with Alder, and I had this day where like I was just getting hit on like crazy. It was like the second like we were like the second we decided to break up, it was like all of a sudden I was like getting hit on like left and right. It was crazy, and by very good looking guys, but also very not like together. You know, where they're working through the stuff, but like we're not. I was like, no, I don't feel like. I'm like, no. I was like, no, but also it was like this sick feeling that I was like, friendship, yes, but like, I'm like, the thought of like anyone else, it just was, I was like, no. So when I finally like kind of pleaded my last case with him, it's like I broke through his barrier, and just the love just started pouring out. And I was like, there you are. I was like, we've just both been in a lot of shadow this summer. We've both been working through. I'm like, you're in the dark night of the soul, but you're almost at the end of it, you know? And I said, and I'm at the end of it, but like this last bit with my mom was like, you know, I had to just really be like, okay, and I love you, and goodbye. So the fact that she died, you know, in a waxing gibbous, and now today is the last day in the 8th moon cycle, the rest and restore energy, I feel like I can finally put any doubts with Alder to rest. I can finally say goodbye to my mom and my family and say I love you so much, but this is who I am. This is me. This is my life. And this isn't a phase. I will always be this until I take my last breath. So, you know, and even Bubba, you know, like I've had these moments with her. A lot of you know she's been really sick this summer. And it was interesting that when my mom got sick, Bubba got really sick too. And I was like, there's no way I'm leaving her. She's my best friend. She's, you know, my child. But, you know, don't tell her that. She doesn't like to hear that. Right? But, right, she's my best friend. And I told her, I said, if you're ready to go, you know, I'm like, it'll kill me, but I know you need to go. You know, you have to do what you have to do. But I feel like she's going through some metamorphosis too. But she and I have been having some really great moments, and you know, it's just been really interesting. And I can feel that that chapter is closing in my past. And I thought that maybe that's what Alder was, because I met him, you know. But I did meet Alder after I was woke. May not have been after we fully came into the, you know, the age of Aquarius. But so, you know, I guess just heed my, you know, not my warnings or my advice, but just like I share my stories with you guys so that you can bring your own, you know, bring your life into your story, into what happened, so that you can kind of see it, you know, because we are going through a lot of similar things right now, all of us. I mean, I met this woman that I spoke to today, and they were like, we had so many similarities. It was like uncanny, and I wasn't even supposed to be in that section anymore. I was done with it, but I was drawn to go back, and I was like, why? And then we had this conversation, but if we didn't, you know what I mean? Everything happens for a reason. So, you know, in my meditation this morning, I knew I was going out into the world, and I was just like, you know, how may I serve today, Spirit? How can I help? And it really does make a difference. And the more you help people, the more you're rewarded. Stop holding on to things so tightly. Memories, money, things, homes, cars, clothes. Be ready to let go of it. You know, some things you'll keep, like this was my grandmother's. I'll keep this forever. I found this recently from when I used to make jewelry. Look at that button. This button is a vintage button. It's so old. I think it's like 200 years old or something crazy like that. It's really old. It's Victorian. You know, and these old earrings that I've had these earrings, I'm not joking. I think I've had these since I lived in LA, like almost 30 years ago. Or no, I lived there almost 20 years ago. 20 years ago? But I got them, I think, when I was living there. You know what I mean? One of those little things that have stuck with me. Got this a few years ago, but, you know, this skirt that I'm wearing is, you know, fairly new. But I'm just like starting to, even today, like my hair, like I did my hair differently than I normally do. I've been wanting to color my hair, but they're like, just wait. And it's got this cool ombre thing going on. You know, but there's just so much change afoot. So allow this shedding, you know, because the dragon's showing us, the dragon's here to bring ourselves forward and remind us who we are. And then the snake will help us to let go of all that. So now is the time where they're like, no more bullshit. Stop talking about it. You know, stop saying, oh, it's okay. It's not okay. You know what you have to do. And I've had to face some really harsh mirrors and realities and demons and so many things. And I'm telling you, I'm on the other side with light and love in my heart, true light and love in my heart for everybody. Because now I can walk away from everything and from my past and say, thank you for your service. Thank you for that. You know, I'm putting it on record. Please take my share. If there's even an inheritance, I don't know, but if there is, like, it's yours to separate between, you know, all of you. If anything, or I'd say I want my share to go to my nieces and nephews. That's actually what I'd really want. I'd want it to go to my nieces and nephews. So there you go. If there's any inheritance, I want it to be split up between my nieces and nephews, because I don't have any children here. and you're the closest I'll ever have. And I don't need it. And know that you'll be provided for too, because I'm just starting. I am literally just starting. And I feel like I was so blessed to live through that experience, because I feel like I've been through a war, but now I know the war is over. And I'm not going to fight any more internal wars or fearful wars, or I hope they love me, or if I don't do this, they're not going to love me anymore. I don't care. I don't need them to love me. I love myself and I love them, and I forgive myself and I forgive them. And I forgive my mom and I forgive myself. Like, I forgive everything. I forgive the ancestors and I forgive myself. And I will continue to say that, because we're not the same person. When I started this video over an hour ago, I was a different person. I'm now a different person. We're meant to change. We're not supposed to stay at the same job under horrible lighting for 30 years in a cubicle and get the fucking toaster with a $50,000 bonus at the end. No. You live your life now. Make America great again. No. Come on. Go back to what? Slavery? Cloning? You want everybody to be the same? No, don't be different. And then the different ones are the outcasts? No. We're all weirdos inside. We all have demons. We all have light. Every single one of us. And as I've said it before, and we'll say it forever, and we've all played the villain, and we've all played the hero in someone's story. Every single one of us. So I'm going to take a break and pause this. We're going to hear some messages from the Dragonfly, and then I'm going to give you some updates on what's going on for this month. There's a lot of cool things going on, so I'm going to take a little break. For you, it'll be seconds. For me, who knows? But I will see you when I get back. I can't wait to find out more and to share the medicine of the Dragonfly with you. I love you. I'll see you soon. Okay, I just realized that it was paused at 1:11:14, which is the number 8. Even though we're in the 9th month now, but anyway. Okay, so sorry, I don't want to. Okay, so I'm just doing like a little to break up the energy. I kind of pulled you in a little bit closer. Okay, so I'm gonna go right into the Dragonfly, and then we will talk about like what's coming up for the month. I may have to grab my glasses, but I'm kind of hoping I won't. I'm losing light, so I'm trying to get this done quickly. So, welcome to our Spirit Animal Medicine for September, for Self-Care September. And you know, Spirit played Judy Garland's "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" before this started, because they want you to know that we are over the hump. There's, you know, yes, things get worse before they get better, but we are actually over the hump. And I'm feeling like 2026 is going to be a huge turnaround for everybody, not just America. I feel like it's going to be a huge turnaround for, sorry, I'm like my hats. You know, when you're like, I didn't even care. I just like threw it on. I feel like the little Swami part wants to come here. Look at, it's just a stitch, but I digress. Whenever there's so many energies here, it's hard for me to stay focused and concentrated. Okay, but yeah, I also feel like it's going to be a big shift then, because it comes out to the number 10. But isn't that kind of exciting, because 2025 is a year from now? So that means 2026 is only a year and a half from now, less, a year and 4 months. So a lot's going to change, a lot's going to happen, so hang in there, okay? That's what they wanted me to say before I read this, okay? So the Dragonfly is number 27, which is also number 9, which doesn't surprise me, in the 9th month. And you know, for a long time I've been calling September Self-Care September, because, you know, summer is really fun, but for a lot of us sensitives, you know, summer is not fun for us, because everybody's out, there's so much energy, people don't know what they're doing with their energy. They you know, I love humans, but right now they're not 100% sure like what's going on, and so they're putting out like a lot of angsty, anxiety energy. And so empaths, if you're like out there, you're gonna pick that shit up. So I highly suggest that you take as much solitude and time to yourself as possible, and staying away from people who are in really low and negative energy and vibration would be a great help too. So the Dragonfly is about illusion. And they always have these cute little poems from Grandmother Twyla. And it says, "Dragonfly breaks illusions, brings visions of power. No need to prove it. Now is the hour. Know it, believe it. Great Spirit intercedes, feeding you, blessing you, and filling all your needs. So I started talking about this in the last part about how I've been inundated, with dragonflies this summer, but there's been one particular that lives over here, and we've had a lot of fun and play. Like, even Alder was like, holy shit. And I'm like, yeah, I go, that's my friend. I'm like, we hang out like all the time. So yesterday I took so much video. They were like everywhere. I can't wait to like send it to you guys, because I'm going to put some of this on there. But I kept hearing Trevor. So if you didn't watch the other part and you're only watching this, I don't know if you know somebody named Trevor, or if you have a spirit animal, or if you work with a dragonfly spirit named Trevor. But either way, this one was calling itself Trevor, and it felt very like a message. Like it felt like somebody had crossed over for sure. I've been getting a lot of that recently, where people are like a little nod, wink, wink, like I'm here, like you're not alone, kind of thing. So because they have like an upright and a reversed, which is basically like in light or in shadow, I always like to read both. And since Spirit didn't have me pull cards, they just wanted me to read from the book, I'm going to start and then we'll go to the shadow last. So illusion, they all have a key word. Each spirit animal in this book has a key word or a key phrase that, kind of tells you what they are, or what the medicine is to work with. And so this one is illusion. And it says, dragonfly medicine is one of the dream time and the illusionary facade we accept as physical reality. The iridescence of dragonfly's wings reminds us of colors not found in our everyday experience. Dragonfly's shifting of color, energy, form, and movement explodes into the mind of the observer, bringing vague memories of a time or place where magic reigned. Some legends say that Dragonfly was once dragon, and that dragon had scales like dragonfly's wings. Dragon was full of wisdom and flew through the night, bringing light with its fiery breath. The breath of dragon brought forth the art of magic and the illusion of changing form. Then dragon got caught in the illusion. Hold on, my eyes. Sorry. Then dragon got caught in its own facade. Coyote tricked dragon into changing form, and the shape of its new body became like dragonflies. In accepting the challenge to prove its power and magical prowess, dragon lost its power. So maybe for some of you, they're like, are you doing it for the wrong reasons? Like, are you, there's a lot of readers and people who are spiritual out there right now. That's been my thing since the beginning, is like, well, how do I know I'm not bullshit? I feel like, well, how do you know? Like, how do you know? But then over the years and over time, you start to see it and you start to be like, oh, okay. Even yesterday, I was drawn to readings from people I've never even, one that I've done readings for before. They're not my favorite. They're super accurate reader, but we don't have a lot of the same belief systems, but I do like their readings. They're pretty accurate. And I was really drawn to them. And it was funny because this other one I was drawn to spoke of the tiger spirit. And they're like, you have a spirit like the tiger. And then I'm like going to look at something else. And then I see this person with their readings, and I don't subscribe to them, but they're like coming up in the home page, because sometimes I go, because I have my subscriptions that I only, like, if I don't want to see anything that I don't want to see, I just go there. Or if I'm working or whatever, then I don't have to be bombarded. But like when I feel like Spirit's talking to me, I'll go to the home, because then they'll bring people into my, I've got a lot of new people. I'm like letting other people go, like, new teachers, new people that, we just turn each other on, mentally, emotionally, physically. But that's what we're there to do, is to inspire each other. So I inspire you just like they inspire me, right? Like we just inspire each other. But it was bizarre because she had 3 animals, and the second I saw the tiger, I knew. And if I hadn't like watched that one, you know what I mean? And it was cool. I just followed the breadcrumbs. But then when I watched it, it was like everything came together. Everything came together. And they literally spoke exactly about this. And they even said something like, man, you must be a dragon or something. They're like, you must be a dragon. They're like, because you have like all this like, dragon energy or whatever. And I was like, so this, you don't have to have dragon energy or have been a dragon in another life to align with the dragonfly energy. But if you tend to align with them more, that could be. Also, I was getting the vibe from Spirit, the butterfly. So work with the butterfly spirit medicine, because most of you, like, you're in it. Like, you've already gone through a lot of this stuff. It's time for you to, like, spread your wings and fly. Like, you don't have to hide anymore. You're not, it's like some of you are still in the cocoon, and that's okay. Like, you're where you're supposed to be. Some of you haven't even entered the pupa stage yet, but I'd be surprised if you haven't, just because this is, I feel like this group of people, we've been doing this for a long time. Like, we've been working on this. So if you just found us here, you could just be waking up, and welcome, you know. But if not, it could be also be that you're just like in a place where you're like, I'm not really sure, I don't know what's happening to me, you know. Maybe you don't need to go through all this. Maybe you're, you know, that's not the path you chose, you know. It was interesting, this one person I spoke to recently was like, I was saying, you know, I had to go through a really rough childhood so that I can blah blah, and at the end they're like, I went through a really rough childhood too. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it makes sense, you know. So, you know, the dragon is telling us, you know, dragons don't have ego. That's the whole point. If you want to work with dragon spirit or dragon medicine, they don't have ego. And it's your ego that's keeping you attached to your past. And so the dragon is saying, you're giving your power away to other people, and you've lost your power. That's why you're like, I don't know where to go. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know, blah, blah, blah. That's okay. You're going to get to that phase. And maybe, and when we get to the year of the snake next year in 2025, you know, which is a 9-year, you know, because we're in an 8-year, and we just went through all these 888, you know, things, because these portals were opening, all these light beings and these codes and programming downloads, all these things, you know, the good programming, like that is ours, that, you know, we're deprogramming from, like, the bullshit that doesn't belong to us kind of thing, you know. So we're realizing that no one can take our power unless we give it away. Like, nobody can literally take your power unless you give it to them. And you're giving it to them by fear. You're giving it to them by, you know, allowing bad behavior, and you're sticking around, you know. That's how you lose your power, is by not standing in your power and saying, no, this is bullshit. This is fucked up. You know, no matter what is happening in the world right now, it's like people are going to flock to the love, and they're going to flock to the light that feels genuine. If it feels genuine, they're going to go to that. If it doesn't feel genuine, they're not. And that's what I'm saying about, like, us. I spoke about this before we started with the Dragonfly, you know, where if you have a lot of people who keep coming to you for healing, there's a reason why. Because they're drawn to you like a moth to the flame. That's what she said in the reading last night. I was like, oh my God, it's like I had all these aha moments, you know. And I was like, yeah, I'm here to help people who are really struggling through the transition of this. The other people who are going to stay in the greed and the wars and all that bullshit, like, you know, be mindful of, like, what you're, of, you know, because history does repeat itself, but it depends on who the players are. If you have the same good old boys and the same old players from this patriarchal energy that want to stay billionaires, that want to control like they've been controlling, that want drones and ants, right? Like, they don't want us, they want worker bees. They don't want us to be individuals. They don't want us to be one of a kind. It's a fucking false reality. Look at a dragonfly. Look at their iridescent wings. Just look at how magical they are. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, you know, Earth is magic. This very harsh world of, like, you know, metals and, like, all this, and, like, no home feelings, no, you know what I mean? It's like, I remember going to this one house one time, this guy that I was dating, and we had some good chemistry, and so I was excited to kind of see where it would go. So we went back to his house, and I was like, oh no. And I stayed in it because the sex was good, but I couldn't even, like, really be in his apartment because it was so clinical. It was so no color, just grays and, like, whites and blacks and beige. It was just like there was no life. It just felt like it was dead, you know? It was like an old loft, and it had, like, a lot of cement and brick. He could have made it really cool, but the way he chose to do it, the aesthetic and, like, just like the appliances and everything, for me, it was too modern. I just was like, it just felt cold. The whole house his whole place felt cold. And then he comes over to my house, and he's like, oh my gosh, he's like, you're so crazy. And everything's like vintage. I had furniture from the 1800s, you know what I mean? And, like, beautiful, solid, like, furniture, and, like, real paintings instead of, like, a fucking print, you know, from IKEA, like he had, you know. It was like, just very different. And I was like, I would rather, and I'm not saying that, but it's like, but his personality, like, that told me everything about him. That's what he was. The sex was good, but I couldn't have any type of like closeness or relationship with him. He was so closed off. There was no creativity. There was no life. He was so broken. And a lot of those people, like friends, family, like that, it's like, but you get them drunk and you hear the whole fucking story. You know what I mean? But people are trying to stay rigid and say, because they're programmed to be a certain way. You want to make money. You want to retire. Don't you want to this? Don't you want to that? And instead of like, live your fucking life now. What are you waiting for? It made no sense to me. For my regular people, you know how I always have my jar? Yeah, I broke my fucking jar with my water in it at the laundromat and started crying because Alder and I broke up. Every person in the laundromat were men. I don't think I've ever had that experience. Even the guy that worked there. And he was so sweet about it. He was so sweet, Randy. He was so nice. He was like the nicest, youngest, like not youngest, but like the youngest attendant I've ever met. But he was like, my mom used to work here. I'm like, that's awesome. He's like, yeah, I still live at home. I'm like, did your mom do your laundry? And he's like, no. I'm like, oh, I think that'd be like the perk. He's like, no, I actually like doing my own laundry. But he was a really cool guy. But anyway, shout out to Randy. But yeah, I realized like there's just this divine masculine energy that's like so begging for love right now, begging for something different, begging for the divine feminine, and that guy, that's why I'm like, why do you think he sought out someone like me? I mean, you'd think he'd be with a more cookie cutter, girl. And I've always been very outlandish with my clothes and the way I look and stuff, and he was very clean cut. But those kind of guys are drawn to me because deep down, they're like me, but they're like something told them not to be. So, think about who you're aligning with in that kind of energy too. Okay, so it says, Dragonfly is the essence of the winds of change, the messages of wisdom and enlightenment, and the communications from the elemental world. This elemental world is made up of the tiny spirits of plants and of the elements air, earth, fire, and water. In essence, this world is full of nature spirits. If Dragonfly has flown into your cards today, you may have forgotten to water your plants. On another level, you may need to give thanks to the foods you eat for sustaining your body. On the psychological level, it may be time to break down the illusions you have held that restrict your actions or ideas. Dragonfly medicine always beckons you to seek out the parts of your habits which you need to change. Have you put on too much weight, or have you started to look like a scarecrow? Have you tended to the changes you have wanted to make? Ooh, it's on page 145, by the way. In your life, if you feel the need for change, call on Dragonfly to guide you through the mists of illusion to the pathway of transformation. See how you can apply the art of illusion to your present question or situation. And remember that things are never completely as they seem. I'm like starting to get hot because I was kind of chilly, but I put on this little, it's still summer here, right? September 1st. It's funny, we didn't have much of a summer. It was kind of chilly, and I was like ready. I was like, oh, fall is here or whatever, and then all of a sudden it just got really hot. Now it's gonna be hot for a week, and I was like, but that's good though. I'm like, because obviously I'm like, I need that. Sorry, almost flashed you guys my goods. I was like telling myself, I'm like, do not move, do not move, do not move. But I didn't. It's just my pretty pink flesh. I know I've been feeling this really feminine, girly, like, even this summer, like, if you guys know, like, I've been in pretty good shape for a long time, but like this summer was like my summer of like just being strong, but also being in my fleshy. Like, I kind of liked having fat on my bones again for a while because I was feeling this scarecrow and it didn't feel like me, and I feel more like me when I have meat on my bones. But I just didn't do it in a healthy way. And I started to shift and change my diet back again in August. And now I'm like, as my old friend used to say, now I'm just black boxing things where I'm just like, nope, no, it's just, it doesn't exist. As far as I'm concerned, that food doesn't exist. I can't eat it because it's not healthy for me. I'm like, processed foods are like, if you absolutely have to get them, get them. But I feel like we are in a time where Spirit's really trying to get us to go back to the old ways and take care of ourselves, because that's another part of this machine. Oh, this little fairy just flew by. It wasn't a dragonfly, but it was definitely like a fairy. Like, it was really big. Oh my gosh, it was so cute. It kind of looked like if a dragonfly was the masculine and that was like the feminine look of it, but it was very fairy-like. Anyway, I'm getting tired. It's been a long day. I've done so much today, but I felt like they really wanted me to do this so that I could put it out tomorrow for the new moon. So in the contrary position, it says, are you trying to prove yourself, or are you trying to prove to yourself or to someone else that you have power? Are you caught in an illusion that weakens your true feelings or minimizes your abilities? If so, you may have contracted dragonfly dive bombing. And this dragonfly was dive bombing me like crazy yesterday. Because, you know, I was having these moments with him where I was like, is this real? Or are we just like too afraid to like move on? Like, you know, like, because trust me, I mean, we've been together for 9.5 years. So we're like, let's get, like, we have to be real about this. And we're both leaders and teachers. And I'm like, we cannot, you know, dismiss that. Especially he's been doing so good this summer. Like, he's been working so with his plant medicines with his people. Like, he's got his own people now, you know, like that he's teaching and helping and healing and stuff. And you know, it's been really beautiful to watch him come into his shaman. It's been the most beautiful thing. That's why I was like, well, maybe that's it. Like, we were only meant to take each other this far. You know, when I called you in, I said, I can't do this by myself. I'm ready to be with a partner again. I'm like, but then when I saw that again today and just the way we've been, it's like, no, it's like we're peas and carrots again. But it was like, but we needed to go into that darkness and that shadow. We needed to see, we needed to like call each other out and say, this is real. This is real. This isn't a facade. This is our reality. You're going back to a place that doesn't exist. I'm going to a place that is safe, instead of just being like, you know, we really love each other. That's not, I'm like, am I sweating? No, it's just oil. But, you know, but we are truly madly, deeply in love with each other. But we needed to like really get to that conversation and cry it out and be like, no, this is real. This is, and I go, now we can begin. Now we can start over. And it probably will take us, because next year we'll be together 10 years in the shedding of the snake. And he was so cute today. He's like, you are 6 months older than me or whatever. And I'm like, I know. I'm like, but that's what I realized. Because at the beginning of the summer, I kind of like had a meltdown and was like, you need to go. Like, I need time to myself. You need. And he's like, okay. And he's like, you know what? I feel that too. But then like recently when I was like pushing him, you know, to like, because he was like pulling away from me in such a way that it was like hurtful. And it was like dismissive and weird. I was like, are we breaking up, or are we, I'm like, what's happening here? So it took me kind of like bringing him back to center and saying like, whoa, like this is who you are and this is who I am. So are we really, like, are you really that guy? Like, are you meant to walk in the shadow and like whatever? Or you? And it was like, no, we just needed to like have that moment of, you know, you're where I was at the beginning of summer. It's all good. We're good. And now he's almost at the tail end of it. Plus, Mercury is his ruling planet. He's a triple Gemini and his moon's in Sagittarius. So, you know, with all the fire in Leo, and I mean, he was put through the ringer too. So please feel free to comment below if, like, astrologically speaking, you were really put through the ringer, you know, like, please feel free to share with us what's going on. I don't always comment. I probably will come back and do some comments, but this summer I really had to work on myself. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. So, you know, if you're dive bombing yourself, if you're, you know, meaning like, you're like, oh, like, how did they word it? I'm going to put it back to their wording because it was better than I can come up with. Where it's saying, are you trying to prove to yourself or someone else that you have power? Are you caught in an illusion that weakens your true feelings or minimizes your abilities? Right? Are you like wearing masks? Are you being fake and you're not like being your true self? If so, then you may have contracted dragonfly dive bombing. Is this the final crash and burn for some pipe dream that had no real purpose? Look within and feel the sense of self energy within yourself. Notice if it is ebbing and find the joint. It could be, and it could be a joint, but I read it wrong. Find the point is what it says. That's why I laughed. So it says, look within and feel the sense of self energy within yourself. Notice if it is ebbing and find the point in time when you were deluded into believing that you would be happier if you changed because someone else wanted you to. Because that was my thing too. I'm like, don't change for me. Like, I'm like, I feel like that's who you are, the person that I'm in love with. Like, I feel like that's who you are. I'm like, but maybe I'm in love with an illusion. I'm like, maybe that isn't who you are. I'm like, that's what we have to, you know. And so it was in the moments that when we like spent together, and like we had like a date night last night, and it was really cute, and it was like, and we like really connected on a different level, and I was like, okay, this is what's happening. So you need to ask yourself, are you in a place where you can be fully honest and fully yourself, you know, with every person in your life and every place that you go? You know, if you're in a grocery store, be yourself. If someone, you know, I had this conversation with the guy in the grocery store, and he was telling me one thing, and I started to laugh, and I'm like, well, just so you know, I'm a medium. I'm like, because if you're telling me you're like a diehard Christian, that's beautiful. I'm telling you I was raised Christian, but I'm also telling you, like, this is what I am now. I was always this, but I wasn't allowed to be that. And it changed the conversation, and I saw them kind of change, right? They looked at me differently. And I'm like, that's the thing that we're trying to change right now. We need to stop looking at each other differently for being ourselves. And if someone is being mean and hateful, that's not their true nature. It's what they've grown into. It's what they were taught. It's what they observed. It's what they took in as a sponge, especially if they're empaths. You know, there was so much hate and rage in my family. There's so much anger towards me. And I'm like, you're not mad at me, really. You do love me. You know that, you know, I'm this person. But they're not being their true selves, you know. They're allowing the hate and like whatever, because you don't hate anybody when you love yourself. I don't hate anybody. I may dislike someone greatly, but I still love them. You know, and I may dislike their choices, but even then, I don't really, not now, because I really do genuinely understand that that's just where they are. So I just don't want to keep meeting people where they're at to make them feel comfortable. I'm challenging people to meet me where I'm at. And that's what Spirit's saying to you. It's time for you to challenge the people around you to meet you where you're at. And if they don't comply, that's okay. Then you leave and you move on. Do you understand? I feel like out of everything I said today, that's like, if you only take that away with you from this today. That was pretty powerful. I really had a lot of aha moments myself there. Okay, so here we go, right? Because misery is a prime clue that you lost your will and personal validity when you bought into someone else's idea of who or what you should be. The illusion was that you would be happier if you did it their way. And forfeiting what you know is right and true for you personally, you give away your power. So it's time for you to take it back. Follow Dragonfly to the place, throat chakra. Follow Dragonfly to the place inside your body where magic is still alive, and drink deeply of its power. You know, that's why I had to get away, because when you're in it, then you'll feed into it. But if you're away from it, then you get to really explore yourself and explore who you are and what you can do. And you don't even know the community of people that are going to come your way. I mean, I'm so blessed now. I feel so blessed. I am so blessed with the people that are in my community. All of you guys, thank you so much. I love you so much. You know, it's like we are a beautiful community here. But at the same time, you know, the tough love is here because Spirit's like, you done shit your pants this year, Charlotte. You're done. Right? Like, no more. It has to end now, or else you'll stay in the false illusion. Definitely between now and the next year, and by 2026, I feel like a lot of us will have a completely different perspective of the world and the universe itself. So the ability is ever-changing and contains within it knowledge that you are creating it all. Follow Dragonfly to the place inside your body where magic is still alive, and drink deeply from its power. This strength belongs to you. It is the power of becoming the illusion. Shape-shifting. The ability is ever-changing and contains within it the knowledge for you, the knowledge that you are creating it all. Right? We're just co-creators. So if you're co-creating a shitty existence, create something better. Create something different. So for the month of September, I just want to check in. So in real time, it's the very first day. We have 29 more days to go. And this is Self-Care September. I know we had Self-Care Summer, but Self-Care Summer is leading to Self-Care September because we go into Fall Equinox on the 22nd, which is literally 3 weeks from today, on Sunday. We are going to have fall equinox in for our beautiful southern hemisphere family. Spring. You'll be coming out of winter, going into spring, and going through everything the northern hemisphere just went through, right? And so now we're going to be reaping the rewards, reaping the harvest for all the hard work we did this year, right? Because this was the year of the dragon. If you do the hard work, it's going to reward you. Dragons are all about good fortune and, money, abundance, infinity. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And we just felt it. August was a son of a bitch. This summer was hard, but I'll tell you what, I wouldn't change a thing. I said to one of my fellow light workers, we're going to have a session, a call this week. I can't wait to connect with them. But I said this was both the worst summer and the best summer of my life. And I said, it's hard to explain. She goes, no, I totally understand. And she's like, I can't wait to share with you. I'm like, me too. I'm like, so there's going to be some really cool moments of sharing, and I will share more with you. But yeah, I mean, it's only bad if you take it as bad, right? Because I'm grateful. I mean, I've been through so much. I have been through so much, and I'm so glad because now I'm on the other side of it. Now is when I can really begin, because the truth is, what my family doesn't understand or realize is I stopped being me for my mom because she wanted to live in her reality, in her world, and I tried. I really did. But once I realized what I really was, I couldn't go back anymore, and I couldn't pretend, and she wanted me to pretend, and I couldn't. I literally couldn't, and I couldn't talk about myself. So I'm like, well, I can't have a relationship with someone that won't allow me to be myself. And I don't care if you're my mom or you're not. I'm like, this is a new world. This is new earth. This is the way it's always been. We've just been programmed to be like, oh, they're your family. You just deal with it. You just stick with them. You even if they're torturing you, even if they're bullying you. I was like, no, thank you. I've been bullied long enough. I've been talked down to long enough. I've had enough. And I'm fucking grown. I'm like, I'm 52 damn years old. And I'm like, I don't need my family. And the funny thing is as much as I love them and I wanted to be a part of their world, they kept telling me I wasn't. And so I was like, well, then you know what? Then I'm not. So don't bitch and complain when I don't fucking show up when you want me to show up. Don't bitch and complain when things are going the way they're going because you had a hand in this. I went home twice in a year within like 13 months. I went home twice and really tried, and I was still treated. Some people treated me better the first time and worse the second time, and vice versa. But either way, I was like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to come here and do this fake facade bullshit. I'm not going to do it. Which is interesting because there's like 4 or 5 birthdays in my family in this month. Very powerful. So anyway, the new moon, Spirit wants you to ask yourself, what if? What if? Just put it out there. What could possibly, who cares? What if? I would like to meet and know and be friends with Queen Latifah. I was watching her on an old episode of First We Feast with the Hot Wings. I'm like, dude, I fucking love her. I love her so much. We're so similar. I'm like, we're like the same brand of crazy. I'm sorry. We've been having mosquitoes and I'm like, I know I've got nice, righteous angel blood. I'm like, but I said to Spirit, I'm like, do you really need this much of my blood? But it was a little baby one, and I don't want to kill it, because I know it's like whatever. But I got bit like 7 times, and I set him free, and I knew there was another one, and now I just saw it, and now I just got bit. But anyway, so don't kill them because they need the blood to survive. They are part of our ecosystem. If they're going for your blood, take it as a compliment. Tea tree oil helps a lot. I just kind of like take my nail and kind of get the juice out of there, and then I put tea tree oil in, and that really helps. I put so much lemongrass. Oh my gosh, that fairy just went by again. I put so much lemongrass on me. And tea tree oil, I thought it was going to keep it away, but it's not, because it's a little baby. Maybe their senses aren't as strong yet. I don't know. I would think because they're a baby, maybe they'd be stronger. But anywho, they want you to start asking, oh, you know what? I'm going to let it out. Okay, I just opened the screen, and now I'm hopeful that they'll make their way out. you know, but I was like, why is that so weird? Especially now that I've like met and like I know so many, not know, but like I met and worked with or waited on or whatever so many celebrities, and you realize they're just fucking people. And I was like, I just feel like there's some celebrities that I see myself being friends with. Why is that so weird? I had a lot of regulars that used to come in to sit with me, famous people that were like, I love talking to you, you know? So it's not so crazy. So if it seems crazy or you're afraid of it, that's what you're supposed to do. You never know. So put it out into the universe and say, you know, it could be anything. It could be like, you know, start writing down your dream person. Start writing down your dream home, your dream place you want to live, you know, and then send it off to the stars and say, whatever's in my greatest and highest good spirit, this is what I want, but you know what would be best for me. Because here's the thing, you can say, oh, I want to live here, or oh, I want to live there, but the reality of living there may not be the fantasy that you think it is. And trust me, from experience of moving 30 times and lived in 5 states and have traveled, I've been in, I think, 8 countries at this point. So you know, when you start to realize, you know what I mean, like the grass isn't always greener, just, you know, that's when I like leave it up to spirit too, because I'm like, well, obviously you know more than I do, you know better than I do, you can see things that I'm not seeing right now, you know. But be very mindful with your thoughts and your words, and take the fear out of it. Have fun with it. Look at it as like a genie, like you're putting your wishes out to the stars. And I've been feeling this is a really special also so and then we have the full moon in Pisces, and we're going to end the you know, that'll be the kind of ka-chink, you know, that's interesting too. But anyway, so the new moon is tomorrow on the 2nd, and then we have, like I said, Friday the 13th, and those are very lucky, and it's all about divine feminine. So I'm sure I'll do something, so check back in for something, messages from spirit about that. And then on the 21st, we have International Day of Peace. So I feel like Spirit's going to do something kind of interesting with that, because it wouldn't be invented and it wouldn't come to being if it didn't mean anything. Everything means something. It's getting really dark here. I'm losing my light. I don't have lamps or anything. I go by candles, and I can go get more, but I don't feel like it right now. And then right after that, so it's International Day of Peace is the 21st, and then the 22nd is the equinox. And we'll be done with summer. But Self-Care September, we're going to still ride that in from summer to fall. Okay, so just take care of yourself, because October, November, and December are going to be, we're eclipse season. I mean, I didn't write down the eclipse stuff here, but I'll check back in. These are just things that I just wrote down today. I had stopped writing. I used to do my whole calendar for the year, but I don't do that anymore. I'm not drawn to either. So anyway, but we'll have the full moon in Pisces on the 17th, which is very interesting. It's also an 8-day. Yeah, so that's it. That's all the downloads I'm getting with that. But just to, you know, be mindful. And like I said, I'm sure I'll have more astrological reports in that. I mean, my mom died 2 weeks ago. In some ways, I'm barely hanging in there, you know, and in some ways, I'm so good, and I know she's good. Like, honestly, like, I know my mom's good. Like, we've been having such great talks, and she's just as witchy and powerful as I thought she was. But there was a reason why she played, like, her Christian, like, Southern Baptist, like, shunning me and all that, and you know, and that's why I want to go home. But it's like, it's part of her karma. It's part of her karma, what she did and the way she treated me, you know. I said that to her. I said, you know, I literally said, I'm like, Mom, what if I'm Jesus? I said, because there's a lot like me on the planet right now. And I said, then you'd be like the Romans back then, and you wouldn't have believed me. You wouldn't have believed me. You would have believed the Old Testament. You wouldn't have believed that I was real, that, right? Because they said, oh, Jesus isn't the Son of God. But he is the Son of God, just like I'm the daughter of God. You know what I mean? Like, it's all the same. But he was a prophet nonetheless, and a very important prophet, like Buddha and Joseph. I mean, we all the prophets that were brought here, and angels, and, you know, we were all brought here for a very special purpose, you know. So when I said that and she basically shunned me with that, I was like, karma is very real, Mom. It's very real. So it killed me to not have an ending with her like I thought we would, with the life that we had in the beginning. And I am so grateful for her. She was a wonderful mother and very funny and very cool. I'm in the process of working through all that right now. But her shadow was really dark. And, you know, you can hide behind a religion, and you can hide behind people, places, and things. But, you know, the truth always finds a way. And I am the light and the truth. Like, that's what I come from. But I'm also an equal, balanced shadow. And this isn't ego. This is like, you know, I am human here. But when I'm done being human here, I'll go somewhere else and do my job somewhere else. This is just a blip on the radar for me. I've done this many, many times before. But, I mean, there's a reason why there's a bunch of us here at this time. Because this is the biggest time that, you know, even through all the fall of Atlantis and whatever, nothing's been more wild than what's happening now. So trust me, we are divinely protected and divinely guided from the stars, from the outer realms. Earth is a school for the soul, and we are one, and I love you. So with that being said, I don't think there's anything else they want me to say. I left my pendulum over there. So I guess until next time, take good care of yourselves and each other. And I don't know what direction I'm going in with this channel or what's going to happen. But I definitely am going to be amping it up with my music on Lula's Life for sure. And I'm going to be shifting all of my spiritual stuff from Lula's Life back over to the magical medium for a while. And again, I don't know if that's permanent or whatever, but thank you for liking, subscribing. Thank you for your contributions. And if you would like to have a session with me, whether it's through a healing session, they're all the same. I do healing even when I'm doing readings. I'm still doing healing, you know. So but all of my information will be in the description box and in the comments. And I'm very transparent with my rates too as well. Spirit is having me put them up there so that people know, so you know what you're going into, you know. Yeah, so until next time, I love you so much. Please, please take care of yourselves, and then you can take care of others. I love you. I'll see you next time.